So there's this funny clip that's going around on Twitter about it's from this interview that Mehdi Hasan did with Bernie Sanders over the weekend. And even though Mehdi Hasan over the last 4 years has become, boy, the fall of Mehdi Hasan has been sad to see, and he's turned into one of the biggest partisan hacks. That's why he has now a multi-million-dollar job to do propaganda for the Democratic Party on MSNBC. But us put that aside. Mehdi Hasan actually asked Bernie Sanders a good question here in this interview, and Bernie Sanders really had no answer for it, and he just looked like a regular sleazy politician trying to dodge the question because he knows the answer to the question, but he knows it would make him look bad if he actually answers it. So he's just filibustering, trying to change the topic and going to his stale, tried and true talking points. And it was just funny to watch. So I have the clip, and it's again worth bringing it up because if we don't talk about it, the few critics of these progressive politicians in left media, if we don't talk about it, nobody else is going to talk about it. And this clip, it does a good job of illustrating the point that I've been making for over a year now, which is basically all of these elected progressives: Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, they're all frauds and charlatans, and they took advantage of poor people in this country, working class people in this country, who were desperate for a real political revolution. They took advantage of them. They used them as piggy banks to fund their campaigns, and they used them to volunteer for them. And all the while, they really had no intention of doing anything to challenge power, because as we see over the last year, when they've had really crucial career defining moments, where they really could have taken a stand against the Democratic Party, they all folded immediately and put up absolutely no fight. So it was clear that all the rhetoric about political revolution and busting up the establishment and taking on the corruption in Washington, it was clear that that was just all claptrap, and there was no intention to follow through on it. So like always, I think that is it's worth talking about, and it's worth driving the point home, because clearly not enough people have caught on yet. People aren't onto the game yet. So I have a clip, and again, it will just further prove the point that I've been making. Bernie Sanders was never ever really going to fight for you. So the clip's about a little over 2.5 minutes. I'll play the clip. It's really ridiculous, and I'm gonna come back and break it down. But first, you guys already know the deal. If you are able to contribute to the show financially, I have the links to Patreon, which are now going to be in the description box. So right here in the video, you don't even have to go to the About page of the YouTube channel. In the description box of the video, where you guys normally find links, I will have links to Patreon. I don't post Patreon exclusive content, because I feel like the content that I make for this show, everybody should have access to it, regardless if you can pay or not. So it's just a way to help support the show monthly without even thinking about it. If you feel more comfortable doing a one-time contribution, I have links to PayPal. That's also going to be in the description box. And I've set up a GoFundMe, because I know the show needs a technical upgrade. There are some improvements that need to be made to the show, audio and lighting and things like that. I set up a GoFundMe to get the equipment so that I can upgrade the show for you all, do live streams eventually, and all the good things. So if you want to see the show improve, you can contribute to that GoFundMe. And also, I'm doing something a little bit different. So there's actually a lot that you guys don't know about my personal life, but it seems like in a past life, I had spent many, many years training and practicing web design. I took some time off. I've made some websites for my friends here and there, but I'm officially trying to get back into it. And I have a website, and I officially have a web design company. So web design business, I'm a freelancer. So if you or anybody else you know is looking to build a website for your business, I will have the link to my website in the about page and in the description box. Again, thank you all for everybody who contributes in any way that you do. All the people who watch the show, share the videos, comment, all of you, I greatly appreciate that. And if you are also looking for somebody to create a website for you, I'm your guy. All those links in the about page and in the description box. So now I'm gonna show you the clip and then I'll come back and break it down.
You mentioned the grassroots movement. A lot of frustrated progressives, especially online, and you know this, often ask, why can't you, Bernie Sanders, use the leverage that Joe Manchin often uses to get his own way on issues like the $15 minimum wage or expanding healthcare? Why can't you throw your weight around, they say, threaten to vote against things like Joe Manchin so successfully does?
First of all, if you look at the results of what happened, look, I'm not the president. But I think what most people would tell you is what we did in the rescue plan was the most significant piece of legislation for working class people in the modern history of this country. And we're moving forward in a similar direction. We can't get everything we want. That's simply the reality. Any one person can say no. But right now, I think we are moving forward. We're going to push it as hard as we possibly can. And I'm proud of the direction in which we are moving.
And just on Joe Manchin, you say you support getting rid of the filibuster, but Senator Joe Manchin has said he won't agree to that. He doesn't back a $15 minimum wage increase. He doesn't back the 28% corporate tax rate that's proposed. When you were running for president, you said you would go to West Virginia and rally working people there against Senator Manchin, pressure him to do the right thing. Hold on. Let me just ask the question. Senator. Do you think President Biden should pressure Joe Manchin in the way you said you would, or will that just make him defect to the Republican Party, some people say?
First of all, talk to Joe Manchin. But second of all, there is a lot of work being done internally in terms of bringing the Democratic caucus together. Once again, we passed the most significant piece of emergency legislation, which, among other things, will cut childhood poverty in half. I expect that the second reconciliation bill will be very profound in creating millions of good-paying jobs. And by the way, I'm going to do everything that I can, along with others, in making sure that we do pass that $15 an hour minimum wage.
Understood.
As well
but
as
you support internal pressure. But you support internal pressure on Joe Manchin, not publicly going to West Virginia and calling him out, as you said.
Well, I think there are a variety. I have no problem with going to West Virginia. But I think we need a grassroots movement that makes it clear to Joe Manchin and everybody else in the United States Senate, including Republicans, that the progressive agenda is what the American people want. They want to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour. They believe that health care is a human right, should be universal. They demand that the rich stop paying their fair share of taxes. These are not my ideas. This is what the American people want right now. And our job is to rally the American people in every state in this country to make sure that the government starts working for the working class of this country, not just the 1%.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. So he's over here. He's scrambling because he can't come up with an answer. He says, I'm not the president, but and again, the question was very straightforward. Why don't you do what Joe Manchin does and threaten to hold up legislation until your demands are met, your policy demands are met? Because that's really the only way Bernie Sanders can force the Democratic Party, who controls the House and the Senate and the White House. That's the only way that he can force them to actually do the policies to bail out the people. Policies like Medicare for all, provide health care to everybody in the country, or monthly recurring checks, or rent and mortgage cancellation. The Democratic Party will never do it of their own volition, so you'd have to force their hand. So it's a valid question from Mehdi Hasan, and look at Bernie Sanders' answer here. And it's shocking that he doesn't have an answer to that question, because that is a very obvious question. So he's like, dancing around saying, oh, I'm not the president. Nobody said you were the president. But we did say that you said you were going to be fighting the Democratic Party. So the majority is so slim in the Senate that your one vote can kill any bill. So use your power to fight Democratic leadership. So the whole, oh, I'm not the president is a red herring. And he throws out another red herring to distract and start a whole other conversation about the most recent stimulus bill. He's been, oh, well, you know, what we did was the most progressive legislation in history, yada, yada. Again, red herring. Nobody was talking about that. We were talking about, why aren't you using the tactic of withholding your vote to get policy concessions? That was the question. Nobody asked you about the, quote, most progressive legislation of our lifetime. Nobody asked you about that. And just a quick aside on that talking point that they keep throwing out there. First of all, they're doing propaganda for the Democratic establishment and Joe Biden when they keep going around pretending like that stimulus bill was anywhere near adequate, or if it came anywhere close to solving the unprecedented cataclysmic problems that we're facing in this country right now. So that's the point that needs to be made. And then also, like, I've heard other people make this point. So people keep talking about, oh yeah, they spent however many $1 trillion on that stimulus bill. It was so big. It was one of the most progressive pieces of legislation in our lifetime. And people keep making the point, okay, show me the last time when we were in economic depression and a deadly out of control pandemic, and then Congress was forced to write legislation on that. Show me another period in our history where we had a situation comparable to this. There isn't one. So for you to just keep saying, oh, well, it's more than we've ever done before. We've never been in an emergency like this before. This is the worst emergency in U.S. history. So that's just such a shitty, stale-ass talking point. And then just further on, okay, so he talks about, so Mehdi presses him, and he says, oh, well, you said if you were president, you wouldn't be afraid to you'd be going to West Virginia, and you'd be calling for rallies and protests outside of Joe Manchin's offices, outside of his homes, and you were going to pressure him to fall in line with your agenda and vote the right way on policies like Medicare for All and all the other left policy priorities that Bernie Sanders ran on. So why aren't you doing that? Or do you think that Joe Biden should? And honestly, I think that when he brought up, oh, do you think that Joe Biden should be going to West Virginia and pressuring Joe Manchin? I think that was such he was trying to give Bernie a get out of jail free card. Because first of all, Joe Manchin and Joe Biden, they agree on policy. They're both corrupt neoliberal corporatists who are just in the business of serving oligarchy and corporate power in this country. So they agree on policy. So the idea that Joe Biden will be sending people out to West Virginia to protest Joe Manchin until he supports Medicare for All? No, he's not going to do that. Joe Biden was talking about he's going to veto Medicare for All. So they're lockstep on policy. So framing it that way was an easy get out of jail free card for Bernie. And because the reality, the way that question should have been asked, you said you were going to do it. If you're president, why aren't you doing that as budget chair? Why aren't you doing that as one of the most popular politicians in the country with tens of millions of people who follow you and volunteer for you and donate to you? Why aren't you using that grassroots energy to pressure Joe Manchin still? Well, so that's the way the question should have been asked. But he like I said, gave Bernie that get out of jail free card, and then Bernie's answer was still shitty. So Bernie says, oh, there's a lot of work being done internally to get the caucus together. What work? What are you talking about? You folded on the CARES Act, got nothing in the CARES Act. They folded on the next stimulus bill, and when they gave you $600 checks, you went along with that bullshit. Means testing millions of people out of it anyway. So at no point have you ever pushed for the real solutions for the policies, and at no point have you used your internal power, which we've been questioning why you aren't doing it, like withholding your votes or forcing things into the budget reconciliation bill, because you're the one who wrote the bill. You wrote the stimulus bill. So you keep talking about this internal pressure to get the Democratic caucus to do what you need them to do. You're not even doing that. You folded every turn and refused to use your power, your internal power, your institutional power to advance that policy. So that right there is a lie. And then also, That's not what you ran on. And that's exactly the point Mehdi Hasan is bringing up right there. You ran on using grassroots pressure, public pressure campaigns and direct action to force your agenda on the Democratic Party, to force, to twist their arms and bring them and force them to vote the way that you need them to vote on policy. That's what you said you were going to do. So why aren't you doing that? Because that's the thing. He never had any intention of doing that. Because if he did, this would still be a moment to do that. It's not like, oh, if Bernie Sanders is president, we would need that extra push of him going to Manchin's district to get Medicare for All passed. And then now, Bernie Sanders isn't president. We're in a pandemic. We're in an economic crisis. And the Democratic Party is still hell-bent on denying us single payer. So it's not like we're any closer to getting it. We're at the situation as dire as it's ever been, and we need single payer more than we ever have. And as far as politicians in government, they're as opposed to it as they've ever been. And the Democrats control the House and the Senate, and we might not get this opportunity for another decade. So, if there was ever a time to do public pressure campaigns, it would be right now. But he never meant it. It was just lip service. It was just him getting his base riled up because he knew that's what they wanted to hear. He knew that they were desperate for a political revolution. So he used that rhetoric to get donations, to get volunteers, to boost his political career, advance his agenda. And at no point did he ever really mean that he was going to do this shit. So that's really the point of this video. He never meant it. He took your money and he took your volunteer hours. He fed you lies and hopes and dreams, just like the rest of the shitty Democratic politicians. So I just want people to like stop with the, oh, let's give him the benefit of the doubt at every single moment. No, he doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt because, like I said, he clearly had no intention of ever using direct action and public pressure campaigns. He was always just going to ask the establishment nicely. And then if they didn't do what he wants, he would just fold and do whatever they wanted anyway. Just like he's doing right now as chair of the budget committee.